Welcome back to Ithaca BJJ. Today, we're diving back into that pesky position, mount. It's great if you're on top, but it's tough if you're on the bottom. But in this video, we'll show you an escape you've probably never tried. But first, let's cover some basics. Notice here how Professor Matt is doing the typical move of grabbing that far foot by getting to his hip and then using his far leg to hook his opponent's foot. This helps him to reestablish a half guard. Pretty common and pretty effective. Now sometimes your opponent hooks your legs, making it tricky to free them. In this case, you can fake them out like Professor Matt demonstrates here. Focus on one side to draw their attention, then switch to the other side to free the other leg. Let's see that again. So it keeps him busy on one side and then switches to the other side. This is very effective for freeing those legs. Now here's that half guard reestablishment from another angle. Another common escape is pushing on the hips and powerfully shrimping out. The goal is to create enough space to slide your top leg out and reestablish your guard. Once you get that leg out, you're in the beginnings of a guard. But what happens if none of that works? This is where this tricky escape comes in. Now Bomber's doing a great job keeping his hips low and being heavy. What Professor Matt needs is to get just enough room between them to get his hands on the Bomber's hips. The key is to bump your opponent up just enough to slip your hands under their hips. Once your hands are in position, extend your arms while using a rocking motion to create even more space. Now this is me and Professor Matt. I can get to mount, but I've always had such a difficult time staying there until he actually gave a class on this escape. So let's break this down further. Bomber's being pretty heavy. We're gonna do just a little quick bump, just enough to get our hands on his hips. Once you get your hands under, you're going to extend your arms out and push down towards his hips. Then you rock side to side to free your knees and reestablish your guard. Let's watch that again. Get your hands down on the hips, push downward, and rock your legs back and forth as you push your opponent away. This makes it very difficult to maintain that mount position. Now what he's explaining here is that your legs may be pushed together, but you need to extend them as you're pushing your opponent and getting him off of you. So what he's illustrating here is, well, taking off a pair of skinny jeans. Now I don't wear skinny jeans, but to each his own. But that's how you can think of getting out of this escape. Now what's really important about this position is extending the legs out. Notice how his legs are extended out. This allows him to get that rocking motion from side to side, which permits him to get his knees back inside and reestablish that guard. It may not look like much, but folks, this is a very powerful escape. Now how do you prevent it? Very simple. Once the hands go on the hips, You have to fight the hands. Another option is to hold your opponent's head. Why is this important? Because holding that head, it closes the space. It makes it nearly impossible for your opponent to get enough space to escape. Another option here is when your opponent goes to reestablish that guard, that half guard, you can simply switch to knee on belly. Notice here how Professor Matt does the switch. Now often what happens in gi is the opponent grabs the gi pants like I'm doing here. And then he takes that leg, puts it inside, and reestablishes half guard. But as soon as you feel your opponent grabbing that leg, like I'm doing to Professor Matt here, you just swim that leg around and switch to knee on belly. Now notice me with the bomber. Now the bomber is pretty good at being heavy on top. But once I get my hands inside and I get those legs kicking and those arms extending, it's very difficult for him to maintain that mount position. Now here you notice he's got even had his feet laced together. But as long as I get that space, just enough space to get my hands on his hips, I push up and then to the side. Look at all that space. That gets me out. So here I am on top of the bomber, being heavy, as this is my game. But I have a very difficult time maintaining that position without fighting his hands. And there you have it, folks. The easiest escape you've probably never tried. Thanks again for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.